Hey everybody, Happy New Year! I hope you had a wonderful Christmas and your holidays were great, safe, and now we can get back kicked into the year because since I've been gone, absolutely nothing has happened. Nothing of interest. It's been completely boring, and I'm totally bullshitting here. We had Nick Shirley, the man that exposed a $10 billion cover-up. Actually, he exposed $110 million in one day. Also, last night we got Trump captured Maduro of Venezuela. Hello. So those are today's videos. I'm spoiling them right off the bat. Hit the like button on this video, and Brett's video will be in my description as well. But yeah, these are the two I'm covering. Come back later to chat with Maduro with me if you're not interested in this one as much. Maybe that one interests you anyways. But without further ado, we're going to begin.
So Ted Cruz and Nick Fuentes finally found something that they could agree on, and all it took was Nick Shirley and his camera to bring together the right against a common enemy once again, and that would be the fraudulent Somalis in Minnesota. But now the huge question is, what is the admin actually going to do about it?
Hopefully the admin does something. I really don't want to have this administration just go, hey, look at all these things. Look at this thing that's gone on. This thing that's gone on. Hey, we arrested all these people. No, I want to see charges be given, jail sentences be thrown in, and people get locked up. I want to see people in handcuffs, scared behind bars because, well, they're going to, have to deal with some consequences for the first time ever. I really want something to come out of this. The government isn't doing enough.
All right, so in case you have sugar-induced brain fog from all of the holidays, by the way, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, so happy to be back with you guys.
Happy New Year, Brett.
Happy
New Year to you. Merry Christmas.
Ago, I broke down the alleged fraud that was happening in Minnesota. I pulled out the whiteboard.
Yeah, she had mainly it from Feeding Our Future, the, big amounts that were being found out about back there and then a month ago. However, there's been so much more.
It was a whole thing, but as a recap, all of this started many years ago with an organization called Feeding Our Future, which is now known to be the biggest scam at this point.
By the way, Feeding Our Future, introduced by Ilhan Omar, signed by Tim Walz. Congrats, you played yourselves.
In Minnesota. It was the largest nonprofit recipient of government funds in Minneapolis during the pandemic. And over the last 3 years, starting under the Biden administration, over 78 people have been charged after pocketing
which is great.
$250
However,
million. And they were not using that money to feed people.
More, there's so many more that need
to line their own pockets, to buy mansions, and to send it back to terrorist groups in Somalia. So that was obviously a shocking revelation, especially for the people of Minnesota, especially for the people in Minnesota who had been funding that with their tax dollars. And all of this blew up, and it started to be a broader conversation specifically about immigration because almost all of the people involved who were specifically charged in that Feeding Our Future scheme were Somali. But Feeding Our Future was not the only scheme that was uncovered because Minnesota's tax dollars were also being funneled through nonprofits that were supposed to be helping homeless people and autistic children. And my friends, that was not happening. And all of this is now just the tip of the iceberg because what was at one point just a $1 billion.
Yeah, these Somalis must be really stupid, and I mean really stupid, if they thought defrauding the United States taxpayers by going after children and autistic individuals was a good fucking idea. Let's just say the slapback of people going, oh, you fucked with autistic people and children? Well, you're dead. That's going to be a large amount of people that are just like, oh, you screwed with them? No. Come here. We're going to take this outside and we're going to fight about it because this ain't going to remain. And there's going to be a lot of individuals that are real mad about that.
Fraud scheme is now estimated to be at over $10 billion, which is almost more than the GDP of Somalia itself. Now, before we dive into the story and everything that has come out since the last
crazy
episode,
fact.
Make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you've not already. And of course,
yes. Hit that like button and get subscribed down below if you didn't subscribe already. Her video's linked in the description. Go over there and do all the things for there. If you happen to watch things like I do on a computer with, multiple browser tabs, just pull up her video in a separate tab, put the video on mute, and play it in the background while you watch this one. And by the time I'm done yapping, so will her video too. I guarantee that.
Of course, ring that notification.
I yap too much sometimes.
Episode of The Brett Cooper Show. And if you want behind-the-scenes content, ad-free episodes, farm vlogs, updates on Pee Pants and his testicles, because we do talk about that, make sure you go to Cooper.
Pee Pants is her cow. Her baby cow that won't stop peeing itself.
Confidential.com. You can check it out. It is my subscription platform that we built from the ground up just for you guys, and all of that content is right there for you. So now that we have refreshed our memories, the brain fog from Christmas has been cleared, let's discuss everything that has happened over the last week. So the day after Christmas, independent journalist Nick Shirley dropped a 42-minute expose where he was going door to door, exposing different daycare and healthcare centers run by the Somali community in Minnesota. These are services and quote-unquote businesses and nonprofits that receive millions upon millions of tax dollars every single year. And what Nick found was basically nothing. No children.
Yeah, not needed. It is nothing but not finding nothing by the buildings themselves. But no, he found no children, no real businesses, or no what appear to be legitimate businesses. He found everything that was just there's no children here. They have no kids that get dropped off. And then there was the other one that they're like, oh yeah, he came before we were open. And Nick's like, yeah, no, I came at 11 a.m. And I also came later in the day, the following day. And then they're like, oh yeah, we open at 2 p.m. We're an after school place. We're open 2 to 10 p.m. And I'm sitting here going, all right, what sane parent is letting their children out at a daycare till 10 p.m.? Yes, if you were after school, sure, I believe that. Maybe you're 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Huh? Because that would be a normal time to have it. But I think if you're receiving government money, guess what your hours are? Your hours are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., so you can handle all the 9 to 5 kids. Congrats.
No patients, barely functioning businesses that somehow still receive massive payouts from the Minnesota government. Here's just a tease of that video in case you missed it.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
No comment. Closed door.
Governor Walz accountable for this. What was this money spent on?
Yeah, this old guy here, who is the one running around with Nick Shirley, he did most of the, boots on the ground, actually looking into a lot of these things, and reached out to Nick, and then him and Nick went out and actually had boots on physical ground. I realized I used that analogy already, but he did a lot of the searching and looking up and gathering information, collecting places to go to, and then him and Nick kind of got together, took all the information they'd been collecting, and yeah, they were able to make this wonderful video that got as many views as a Mr. Beast video nearly. He actually said, I think on Patrick Bet David's podcast, that yeah, it's been viewed more times than any other YouTube video, any other creator, except for Mr. Beast videos, which is absolutely wild, and he deserves every view. He deserves everything for it. Excellent work.
1.26 million. What was that money spent on? There aren't any kids.
Answer the question. Are there children? There's no children inside this building.
There are no children inside of this building, and that is probably the common thread of that entire 2-minute video. Now, the entire episode is so well done, so after this video, you need to go watch it. It's on Nick Shirley's YouTube. We will have it linked below. It is essential viewing. Nick also posted the entire video on X, and it freaking blew up almost instantaneously. It racked up more than 77 billion impressions, I think, within 24 hours of it being posted, and now it is sitting at 135 million. So needless to say, it was a busy Christmas and holiday season and New Year for Nick, who, by the way, has been hustling for years. I know that this.
By the way, if you didn't know, Nick Shirley also has a part 2 to that video coming. That comes out shortly. He said he just has to go home and edit it, basically. It's already been filmed.
This might be the first time that you guys have encountered his videos, or be the first time that he's come across your feed, but I think Nick started back on YouTube when he was 15 years old. He's Mormon, so he took a 2-year break when he went on his mission, and he came back, and he immediately dove into independent grassroots political journalism. He spent basically the entirety of 2024 leading up to the election traveling around the country, live streaming every single day. He was also at 22 years old, the first American journalist to go inside of CCOT, the mega prison in El Salvador.
I was about to mention
he did a ton
that.
of videos at the border when nobody else was reporting on the realities of immigration under the Biden administration. He did all of this as a 21 to 23-year-old with no backing, no big media company driving him, nobody interviewing him. He hadn't been on Fox. He hadn't done.
Yeah. like his video about the Somalian fraud from 8 days ago, because it's the third when I'm recording this, is only his fourth largest video on his channel. His biggest is Inside CCOT, the mega prison full of deadly gangsters. I infiltrated Rio, Brazil's most dangerous gang. Inside America's city of zombies, Kensington, Philadelphia. This, and then, he's got another El Salvador CCOT video here. I believe this one is also CCOT. Either that or it's the other El Salvadorian prison that's more like a work camp. But, hey, if you're going to have all these people, give them something to do during the day. I kind of agree with that. Let's make them productive. I wouldn't say turn them into slaves that are literally working 12 hours on, 12 hours off like it's fucking the prison in Andor. But some of these are much better. And yeah, the video's not watched here, but it's watched on my own channel for Nick's fraud scandal. And I've watched a handful of others on my own main channel too. But yeah, maybe one day we'll snag one of these three top, because I know I haven't seen any of these three, so I might react to one of those someday. Anyways, back to Brett.
In any big interviews, it was just him, his camera, and a mic, and his mother. Because his mom has been his cameraman throughout all of this. I think that fact
I love
is why my own mom became so obsessed with him a couple of years ago. I remember her sending me his videos back when I was still a Daily Wire, and she was like, this is like the most adorable young man. His mom is his cameraman. He's out there just doing all of this himself. Anyway, all of this to say, none of this happened for Nick overnight or accidentally.
Mom's cameraman and brother goes around just as security help.
I know him personally. This is a wonderful person to support, so I just wanted to include all of that in there. Anyway, back to the point and back to this expose. So Nick went to Minnesota. He worked for the Minnesota man who you saw in the video, that older gentleman. His name is David, who has been researching and documenting all of this fraud for years. And in this,
I think David said he started in 2019 or 2020 when he was actually just trying to find a daycare for his own grandkid.
Video, as they were going door to door to all of these different
businesses,
and he kept
they allegedly realizing, these places you can't call them.
And now the most viral moment in the video, as I'm sure you guys have seen, is them visiting the Quality Learning Center, but
Quality Learning.
Correctly, they dropped the end.
The Learning Center
program in Minneapolis that could not even spell learning correctly. I mean,
and then they tried to play it off on, the printing company messed up. And to be honest, if you sent that to the printer and it said Quality Learning Center and they delivered you Quality Learning Center, you're the retarded one for putting it up and not immediately sending it back to get it replaced. That's what any American would have done. But no, you spelled that properly for them to fuck up. Then you blamed it on them. So yeah, no, that sign will never be fixed. They put a piece of paper or something over it, and it's just the Quality Center.
Just write themselves at this point. Now, because of how massive this video and this story became, the left immediately started freaking out because all of this was being exposed. And unsurprisingly, rather than looking into the fraud, rather than looking into the upwards of $10 billion that has now been funneled through the Minnesota community, the Somali community, they have been spending more time trying to shift the blame away from the Somali community and running hit pieces on Nick Shirley himself. I mean, the response is like laughably predictable at this point, because just listen to what Governor Tim Walz Tim had to say at his press conference after.
Oh yeah, there's so many people talking bad about him.
Video went viral. I mean, again, it is so incredibly predictable.
It's not law-abiding citizens. If that were the case, there's a lot of white men should be holding a lot of white men accountable for the crimes that they have committed. I think for the community.
Can you name them? Can you, Mr. Timmy Walls, for a moment? Can you give us a list of crimes committed by white people that we should hold accountable? School shooters that are already dead. Well, they're dead, so that's their accountability portion. They were killed for their actions. People who are in jail, they're in jail. So, all right, we'll move on from them. You got to name them. Let's see. How about the guy who killed Melissa Hortman that works for you? How about that white guy?
Because I think what you're seeing here is there's secondary victims in this, that there's providers inside the community that,
and then there's CNN that
himself by signing them up.
I'll stop interrupting.
Some of these people, they're like, I had no idea I was in this program. So I think it's asking us then, for every crime, which of course the majority being committed by white men, asking us more about that.
Yes, let's not focus on the community.
Does he know the definition of the term per capita? Is he like Piers Morgan? Did Piers Morgan teach him that per capita is just a myth and it doesn't exist? Because that's what Nick Fuentes had to teach Pierce Morgan a couple weeks back. That one was crazy. I loved that one.
And let's not focus on the huge population of Somalis that you have in your own state, who, by the way, are the majority of arrests in the Feeding Our Future scam.
Yeah, they're like 89% of the arrests.
The white man. Let's blame everything on the white
for the
man
fraud
because
arrests.
that is more comfortable. That is more inclusive and politically correct in Tim Walz's framework.
I'm the white collar
so
criminal
glad
now.
Your priorities are aligned. I'm so glad that you have your priorities straight. That really what we need to be thinking about is straight white men. And of course, because I mean, what's new? Trump is also at fault, obviously.
Of course.
So let's be honest about how we really got here.
I mean, they also, I was going to say, well, Tim was talking, but I guess I should let him speak because I can pause him. But, like I was saying about how CNN introduced Nick Shirley, they literally, MAGA influencer. And it's like, okay. And then I can't remember which other news one, but another news organ introduced him as conservative influencer. Or MAGA YouTuber is what CNN called him. That's what it was. Which, for one, calling him a YouTuber that's already trying to, throw him down, kick down. YouTuber. Those are those guys who make prank videos. And then you lull him in with that for the older group. And then calling him MAGA YouTuber. The MAGA part just ties him to the GOP. So you already have a group that won't like him. It's crazy that they were allowed to do that.
He doesn't like the Somali community, and he wants to destroy them.
He doesn't. That's not anything what he said, and that's why you're getting booed.
Speaker DeMuth and the GOP caucus sent a YouTuber out to create the narrative they want out.
They didn't send him out. He just went out.
They want you to believe.
Okay, so it's Trump's fault. Trump just decided that he hates the Somalis, allegedly. He wants to, quote unquote, destroy them. So he and the GOP and the Minnesota GOP Speaker of the House, they all colluded together and they worked with Nick Shirley and they sent him out there to create this narrative to destroy the Somalis. No, actually, that's not what happened at all. Literally, it was just Nick and his camera and his friend David and documents and web pages from the Minnesota State Government website. And they went door knocking. And that's what they found. And because individuals like that lovely woman in the video, because they don't like what Nick uncovered, they are doing everything but looking inward. They are blaming the GOP, they're blaming Trump, they're blaming the white man, they're attacking the one person that was willing to go door to door to cover this story. Because again, predictably, almost immediately, the hit pieces started rolling in like this one on Nick from NPR. I mean, literally, mainstream media outlets were more concerned with running stories on Nick and diving into his background and figuring out where he came from than actually.
The other craziest part about some of the fraud that they uncovered is one of the phone numbers listed for one of these places literally goes to Tim Walz's office. Like his main office number that you would call to get to his receptionist and schedule an appointment or something to meet with him if you had enough of an important thing to do for that. Like, that's crazy that was allowed. You've got other daycare places, not even some that aren't in Minnesota. There was some uncovered in D.C., others in Ohio, that are just like residential addresses that are listed for, 15, 20, 30, 40 children. And it's like, you obviously, legally can't put that many kids in a house of that size. And then they're getting, $1 million a year.
Investigating the fraud. Like, they watched that 42-minute
like
video,
at that rate,
135 million impressions. They were
I'll go to
the
grandma and grandpa's house, and there'll be a daycare.
Now, to be fair, the mainstream media was not the only group that was going after Nick. Others, especially those on the left, were claiming that he was some kind of plant, that he was maybe paid for by Israel because, oh my gosh, he went to Israel to cover the war last year. Like, this person said, fake psyop Nick Shirley being pushed by Elon Musk, yada, yada, yada. He just went on a paid propaganda tour to Israel. There are also folks like Sneeko who got on. He
didn't go on a paid propaganda tour. He paid for that tour himself. His trip
is a bit strange and kind of feels coordinated. Like, come on, like, this is what makes me so infuriated. Like, Nick Shirley, again, has been working for years. He has been hustling.
And I haven't had time to watch it yet, but Graham and Jack, their Iced Coffee Hour podcast, just released an episode with Nick Shirley out today. So I'm excited to look into that one and watch that when I get a chance to. Because, those podcasts are like 2 hours long. Got to carve out a good chunk of time.
For years, he made a hit video after years of hard work. It does not need to be some kind of plant or conspiracy. Like, Hassan Piker even retweeted one of those posts about him being some paid Zionist
Hassan. I predict Hassan, by the end of 2026, he will have lost a significant portion of his audience, and he will become even more of a lolcow on the internet than he already is. That man, he's trickling followers out, and subscriber number is dropping. Viewer count has been dwindling since the quote-unquote war in Gaza, the genocide there, has ended.
Plant from Israel. He made the most Israel video demanding to see children in all of these facilities, and then when they wouldn't let him in, that was enough evidence of fraud, to which Nick responded to Hassan and said, I was literally a Mormon missionary for 2 years. I'm not a Zionist. I went to Israel with my own money to try to figure out what was going on for myself and for my viewers so that they could see it firsthand versus from a news studio. You just seem to hate people being able to go to the location of the issue. I even tried to enter Gaza but was denied when I went to Israel. It is called journalism. I don't support the death of innocent children or our dollars funding it, whether it is Israel, Hamas, Ukraine, or Al-Shabaab. America first, always, 100%.
Yep.
I absolutely love that comment. I'm so glad that Nick is just laying it all out there. He's saying, no, this is not who I am. I was not paid by anybody.
I love how he was able to defeat every talking point.
My audience. Now, shockingly,
from
considering
Hassan.
the discourse that has been recently dominating the political right, that comment has not shaken things up yet. It has not started a new civil war, because what Nick did was so important, and it was so damning for the likes of Tim Walz and the left and the people who support mass immigration, that people, thankfully, on the right are keeping their eyes on the prize. They're staying unified and they are staying focused together, which is especially important because of all of the attacks being slung at Nick for simply being somebody who got up, who spent his own money, who went out there to ask questions and knock on doors. So to all of the detractors out there, all I will say is find a better critique. Although I think you will be hard pressed to do so because of the way that Nick very intentionally lives his life, which he spoke about in an interview with PBD just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, that was a great interview
as well. Just watch.
These people are like, I saw something, someone's calling me like a PDF. They're saying all these crazy allegations.
Hassan. That's Hassan Piker calling him that.
Never gonna be able to get me. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. I'm a virgin. I don't have sex.
Because he's waiting till marriage.
You're not gonna catch me on no sexual allegation charges. I don't have any addictions. I don't have any vices. So what are these people gonna get me for? They're done. I'm a
And, you know, Patrick Bet-David here, an Iranian immigrant who is living evidence that you can come into the U.S., you can come here, build a legitimate business, and become a success.
religious. I believe in God. I'm everything they hate. I
love that.
So what are they going to get me for?
I mean, Nick is as clean as they come. He keeps his head down. He works hard. He lives a good life. And it's also funny to me just seeing all of this transpire, seeing that clip that we just watched rack up millions upon millions of views as his video is going viral. Like, we have spent the last 4 months watching
Nick needs
all
to
of
be
this fighting
protected at
over
all
Charlie Kirk's
costs.
legacy. There are people jumping in and clamoring for a spot at the mic. You know, you have these young people smiling on the news the day that Charlie was murdered. You have people saying, we're going to pick up the microphone. Meanwhile, you have Nick Shirley out here who never got distracted, who never got involved with any of that fighting. He never stopped working. He is actually living a good life. He is actually a good role model for young people, especially for young men. I don't think the right ever needed to find some new young man to pick up the mantle for Charlie Kirk. There were all of those articles being like, who's the next
Where's
Charlie
the
Kirk,
money
whatever it
going?
is. Like, we do not need to manufacture that.
That took a second to load in, but I wanted to pull something up that, like I was saying there, support his security. If you have the ability and the extra money and you want to support Nick Shirley for the reward, the journalism he did, go to his link here. And in this Black Line Security, you scroll all the way down to the bottom, the Black Line Guardian Fund, right there, and you can support the mission. You can get Nick Shirley right there. You can select someone else at risk if you want someone else to be protected. You can do a monthly donation if you want. Just, you know, Nick Shirley would be the one I would say for right now, simply because A, without him I wouldn't know about the company, and B, he's out here actually in need of some extra security for what he's uncovering.
That should have never been a thought in
When you
anyone's
hit
mind,
people's
because
wallets,
that was
they
always
tend to
going
get
happen
upset.
authentically. And Nick, in his own right, has already started a domino effect of action that we have not seen in a while. I mean, young men around the country are grabbing cameras and they are investigating this fraud in Philadelphia, in
So many
Washington, in
people
Ohio.
all
They are
over.
uncovering massive fraud, massive Medicaid fraud, and they are doing it all independently. And that is the other thing that is so damning about this entire story. Because even though we knew about this fraud, even though Biden's administration was investigating back in 2021 and 2022, the mainstream mainstream media had not covered it. It took viral posts on X from people like Christopher Rufo and Nick Shirley to get the mainstream media's attention. And so now that he has made this huge video, now that he has 135 million impressions, now that all these other young men are going around and doing these types of videos around the country, CNN is finally on the case, guys. Don't worry, they're
Is
here.
she playing the video I think she'll play?
Watch.
Hi, my name's Whitney.
Oh,
I'm a
yes.
correspondent for CNN.
We reached out to several of the daycares in the now viral video. Only one daycare facility answered and said they are a legitimate business.
The way they put that. We reached out to a bunch of these facilities. Only one of them replied and said they're not a fraud. Like, right, I'm glad over the phone you got that one, and then off the phone call, you went to all those facilities that didn't respond, and you knocked on the door, said, CNN, I'm here to investigate. No, you didn't do any of that.
Have you seen the videos, purporting that some of these daycares don't have kids inside?
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Case
Oh, is
closed.
that
You
what they're
sat in
reporting?
your
That
office
there's
and
no
you
kids
called
in
them
there?
daycares, and they said, oh, no, actually, we're very legitimate. I'm sorry. Is that really the best that you can
Is
do?
that
And it's
journal? Is
almost
that what
unbelievable.
qualifies
One
as
of those
journalism
daycares
nowadays?
saying that all of their important Medicaid documents were randomly stolen this week.
Oh, that one
Break
is
in, the people
ridiculous.
online are saying mysteriously looks like it was done from the inside. And yes, that is actually something that
Yeah, it
happened
wasn't a
after
break-in,
this
it was
so
a break
obviously
out.
these daycares are getting a lot of press.
The
They're doing press
document,
conferences.
the documents got up out of the filing cabinet, and they ran out the back door as they busted through the bricks themselves.
They're trying to say, look, we're actually a legitimate business. We're fixing the sign. We're adding an N so it actually says.
The only thing I would believe if the documents got stolen is if they got stolen by someone who's literally there to expose everything in those documents. I bet you those documents that were stolen, those documents never existed in the first place because, well, this is just all fraud. They would have been better off creating false things along the way to have a paper trail.
Learning here, we'll show you all of our documentation that we actually have kids. Except actually, they were stolen. Our daycare was broken into. The only thing that was stolen was our important government documents that show how much money we get and how many children we have. They're just gone.
Remember, they also took a few checks out of their checkbook. So now if fraudulent checks show up from this daycare, those were the ones that were stolen, is what they can say.
I'm not kidding. Watch this.
A small hole in the utility
Yeah,
room stemming from
no.
a larger hole in the exterior brick wall. The apparent entry point for a perplexing break-in reported at a South Minneapolis
Because a
daycare.
busting through a brick wall
and exhausting.
Surveillance
is
video
common.
inside Nokomis Daycare Center captured a blurry, shadowy figure at around 3 a.m. Tuesday near the spot where the brick wall was cut through.
I'm sure.
Next door Family Dollar also shows evidence of an attempted break-in at 2 spots. And the daycare reported theft of its records, including parent information and racist threats.
We've been
Hey, here, I'm going to mute this guy, and I'm going to translate for you. Here. I am the only guy here that the Somali community could find that speaks English. And they told me that there's no fraud here. They broke in and just stole our documents and our evidence of our children.
receiving hateful messages.
Oh, no, that's not what it said.
Story in this video
Oh, that
immediately
they're
started
receiving
making the rounds.
hate.
People were going, I'm sorry, that doesn't look
Gotcha.
like a normal break-in. That almost looks like something was done from the inside. Like, is this just more fraud? Are they covering their tracks? Obviously, that is allegedly, but that is just what the people on the internet are saying. Now, also, side note, people were quick to point out that the glasses that this humble daycare manager was wearing in that video are $2,400. Those
Yep.
glasses that he is wearing, just look at
Yep.
this, $2,400. I mean, the whole
Someone's
thing is
getting a
just-
kickback.
It's so perfect. You have 4 children in your daycare, whatever it is, and you're wearing glasses that cost more than most people earn in an entire month. I mean, you just can't make it up. And because
He's wearing
the
glasses
memes
that
have just
cost
been,
as much as some
exceptional.
people's
Tiffany Wong
house
said,
payments.
Mom, how did we get so rich? Well, your father.
I love her Twitter page. She is one of my favorite tweeters out there. She's got another one. It's like me after opening a Somali daycare, and it's just a table full of money,
Opened a small
end to end.
daycare in Minnesota. This was my personal favorite. Today on House Hunters, her stay-at-home wife Kim has a daycare in Minnesota. And
I
they
saw
have a
this one,
$3.2
too.
million house budget. This one was also amazing. This guy posted, well, the reason for the call today, John, is something that just came across my desk, John. It is perhaps the best
Yes.
thing I have seen in the last 6 months. The company
Wolf
is
of Wall
Quality
Street's
Learning
such a
Center,
good film.
cutting-edge children's daycare located in the heart of Minneapolis. Minneapolis. Yes, if you want to go get rich, that is the way to do it, apparently. Now, obviously, I want to be very clear here. It could very well be the case that some of these businesses are more legit. Maybe some of the employees who were talking with Nick didn't know what was going on, even if it is fraudulent, like they didn't know that that was what was happening. And you know what? Other journalists can and should go in to confirm. And we should not just take Nick's video as case closed. And he's not asking people to do that. He's saying, hey, go in, see if I messed up, see if I'm confused here, but this is what I found. And I'm
Yeah, the other thing Nick says is when asked about it by a reporter, says, "So are you saying what you're showing here is true?" And he's like, "Yeah, this is literally what I uncovered. You take it with your own brain and make your own opinion on it." He has said that. There's a video of him saying that.
sorry, CNN, but that unfortunately means that you have to do a little more legwork than just calling from your hotel room and
Yeah.
asking if they are engaging in fraud. Because maybe the people just didn't want to let Nick in. Maybe he caught them on a lunch break. Innocent until proven guilty is still important, but not as innocent
True,
as the unborn
but-
lives that need our protection and that you can help with free
Ed
warning.
time.
For our projects, rescue Hunter,
Whee!
and that's balanceofnature.com. All right, now back to the point. Regardless of what
Ads
is happening with
skip
those
to
specific
help
videos,
shorten
we
my
do
video
know
a little,
that fraud like
'cause
this
it's long
exists.
enough.
Again, people have been sued. People have been arrested. We know that it is upwards of billions of dollars. Tim Walz has even admitted that. And we have to acknowledge that this entire situation is weird and suspicious because we're seeing empty daycares in all of these videos, not just in Nick's. We have disconnected phone lines, missing documents. Like, listen to this tweet. The numbers don't even add up. There are 1,794 daycare centers in Minnesota. 1,735 of these list a Somali-sounding name as the owner for 111,000 children. Total Somali population is only 84,000, and the percentage of them on welfare is 81%.
81%
So if
of
the
them.
parents are not working because they're receiving welfare, why do they need childcare? And do non-Somali children go to Somali-speaking centers? And I think that that last point is probably the most important one because remember,
The last thing there about the Somali speaking, why do we have people not speaking English? If you come to America, there is a national language here. It is now English. You must speak English if you come here. I really wish they would implement some stricter immigration rules like Japan has. I don't think we need to say you need to live here 10 years before you become a citizen. I think that's a little on the stricter side. For them, it isn't because they're a much smaller nation. However, I do agree with them on the you must speak fluent. In their case, Japanese. In our case, it would be English. I think you should be able to run to your neighbor's house and hopefully, and if you're in an emergency situation, go beg your neighbor for help. Say, hey, call 911. And if they go, huh? Emergency? Like if they don't understand you because they're speaking Somalian and they don't speak any lick of English, you got a whole community that is becoming a broken community that's not there. If you come to the U.S., speak English.
when this fraud was originally being exposed back in 2021 under the Biden administration, some of these groups literally threatened the Minnesota government by saying that they needed these very specific culturally appropriate care, whether it was, autism care or daycares or healthcare for their Somali community, and that the state of Minnesota would be exposed
that
for being
autistic
racist
care.
if the government came in to investigate
IQ
or
is
shut off their
68.
funding. That is literally something that we talked about last time. That is actually
All of them are
something
autistic in that
happened
case.
2021. If you cut off our funding for our culturally appropriate autism therapy, because we need that, you will be called racist. So they're saying that this is specifically for their community, although on the books they have more children than are in their
If it's for their community, maybe their community, the businesses in their community should be pooling some money to pay for it, not the taxpayers.
entire Somali population. So none of it just makes sense. And now speaking of 2021, some of these businesses that are now coming out in videos like Nick's are being exposed for actually having ties back to that original Feeding Our Future scheme, which a News Nation reporter also covered. Colin Roog posted this here, and he said, News Nation reporter Rich McHugh shows up to one assisted living facility in Minnesota that receives tons of taxpayer dollars only to find that it is a normal-looking single-family home.
Of course
The
it
facility
is.
one of a few facilities owned by Gandhi Mohammed. Mohammed was indicted in 2024 for allegedly laundering $1 million in the Feeding Our Future case. Quote, these assisted living facilities received over $2.3 million in state money last year alone. A Minnesota Reformer article says that Mohammed has been paying $49 million.
50 million in 9 years. That is nuts. Why? People, I'm done with saying we need to or have people be arrested and in prison for this. We need people to be publicly executed for these things now. Some of this is so insane that if all of a sudden, we could get exactly what the money of all this was spent on and figure out, okay, did you actually spend anything at these facilities, or was it all just right in my pocket, quickly shoving money in my pocket because they might turn off that stream.
Since 2016. So this man, Mohammed, possibly
Fucking
one of many,
nuts.
was not just involved in one scheme, but he was tying that scheme into another through this assisted living home that Rich McHugh from News Nation uncovered. So what we've learned here is that the same people who were indicted in that massive Feeding Our Future fraud scheme are still being given government funding today.
Of course they are.
Amazing. Like, you couldn't cut it off. You couldn't realize maybe that person was indicted, so maybe you shouldn't give him money for his other organizations when he is literally being indicted for fraud. This is
a situation that is so maddening that I'll probably talk about it until Tim Walz is behind bars.
Made almost $50 million on the
He belongs behind bars.
Like, great job, Tim Walz. Good for you. Thank God. He is not our vice president, is all.
And also, in the Nick Shirley's video, every single person, and I mean every single person he went up to at all of these facilities, they don't seem that intelligent. So it makes you wonder, were they taught this fraud by certain people who may have been smart enough to figure it out? That, we can just request it. And if you do it quick enough during COVID, well, during COVID rules, they're not going to come check you because, they can't get in your facility because you lock your door on them. Oh, that's great. And we can keep doing that after the fact, keep everybody out, and nobody will ask questions. And then they'll just keep sending us checks in the mail. So I really think that this fraud was taught how to happen. People were taught how to do certain things and certain ways to get around. And if things were reported, they actually were ignored. There is evidence of that, too. I hope Brett gets to some of that.
Now, speaking of vice presidents, we need to move on to the next part of the story, which obviously is what is going to be done. All of this has been exposed. Again, 135 million views on Nick's video alone. All of these other investigations are taking place.
$110 million of fraud that Nick uncovered in one day.
To Ted Cruz, to Andrew Tate, talking about this and applauding Nick Shirley's journalism. So what are you going to do? JD posted about the story and he said, what's happening in Minnesota is a microcosm of the immigration fraud in our system. Politicians like it because they get power. Welfare cheats like it because they get rich. But it is a zero-sum game, and they are stealing both money and political power from Minnesotans. That's a great tweet.
Yeah.
I completely agree. But I don't want JD
All of
Vance
it's
to
true.
just be tweeting. I want
JD Vance to do something about it. He's the vice president.
People saying, okay, great. So what are you going to do about it? Like, I don't really care about your thoughts. What are you actually going to do? How are you going to stop this? Which is a great.
Yeah, how are you going to stop it? A, how are you going to stop it? And B, how are you going to prevent it from happening more in the future? And how in the future can we help prevent it from happening by maybe helping catch it quicker? Are there going to be more checks and balances on different places? Do we need to hire a few government employees in each state, in each city to go check out all the facilities that receive money? Like, what needs to be done? I want to know what will get done for it. That's what I want to know.
Morality around the story and the pressure. Kash Patel, leader of the FBI, finally made a statement. But to a lot of people, it was just laughable. It was a nothing burger because it seemed like he was just trying to take credit for what Biden's team actually did before.
I'll be honest. Before Kash got in, he seemed like a good fit. Someone who was going to get in, going to do it, going to get it all, be transparent, release things. And then all of a sudden, afterward, you see him with this bug-eyed stare all the time where he looks like he just looked at the most horrifying thing ever, which maybe he did, but he seems like he has been scarred. I don't think he could handle this job in its entirety. Maybe we need a couple FBI heads. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but this dude seems traumatized only since he got in this position too. Anybody else?
He came into power. In part of his tweet, he wrote, "To date, the FBI dismantled a $250 million fraud scheme that stole federal food aid meant for vulnerable children living during COVID-19. That was the Feed Our Future scheme. The investigation exposed sham vendors and shell companies and large-scale money laundering tied to the Feeding Our Future network. The case led to 78 indictments and 57 convictions." Okay, well, that's
insane.
Great, Cash. But dude, those investigations took place in 2021. The raids and the arrests happened in 2022. You were appointed director of the FBI in, what
24?
year was it? 2025. 3 to 4
Yeah.
years after all of those investigations took place. Now,
so
obviously,
what
we need
did
to be
you
fair here,
do,
and his
Cash?
team has overseen new developments, but they did not break the case. Everything that he's writing about in this huge, long tweet that he posted, that was not done by him. What we want to know is, what are you doing now? What are you doing with this new information that has been uncovered by independent journalists? Because it's making us think that you are not actually doing your job. And unfortunately,
exactly,
there seems to be maybe a new GOP strategy, because the Minnesota House GOP leader and candidate for governor against Tim Walz allegedly bragged that her office had actually helped Nick with a video. This person tweeted here and said, "Breaking. NPR News reports that Minnesota House GOP leader Lisa DeMuth acknowledged the Republican Party's involvement in Nick Shirley's viral daycare video, saying, quote, 'We worked with Nick Shirley on this.'" And then he goes on and he says that matters because the video has been widely framed as independent citizen journalism. And I agree that that statement is important, because this was independent citizen grassroots journalism from Nick Shirley. This GOP leader was in no way involved. Nick even responded and said, "This is completely false. I have no idea who this lady is. She is trying to make herself look good for her campaign. Shame on her." And then he goes on and he leaves another comment and he says, "Either way, I'm sure that this lady would make for a much better candidate than Tim Walz. Best of luck in your race, and the truth is the truth. Fraud is happening and we should celebrate that it is being exposed at a national level. Best of luck, and I hope you have a fair election." So
I hope she has a fair election too, because in the state of Minnesota, signed by Tim Walz, a order for driver's licenses for all. Also, conveniently in Minnesota, they don't require you to show voter ID when you vote. Your ID is just your voter identification. So all of a sudden, anybody, a legal citizen, can get a driver's license, and then they can go vote with that license. So literally, they are allowing an infinite amount of people to come in to vote Democrat into their state, and they are trying to steal the swing states. That's why Michigan has problem with Dearborn. How Minnesota's got Somalia, little Mogadishu over there. I'm sure there's tons of other things that were missing along the way in some of the other swing states. I'm sure if people looked into it, there'd be tons of fraud, waste, abuse that really Elon Musk should have been able to help uncover more of that with Doge earlier this year. I'm not upset with the administration and what they're doing. I'm just upset that they're not doing more. And in fact, literally, my personal Twitter here, if you want to go follow it right there, I got banned here because some guy was reporting me for violent speech. This is on, the strikes in Venezuela yesterday. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I voted for. We need more of it to happen. The administration isn't going hard enough. And someone fucking posted me like, really? You're going to report me for that? For violent speech? Nothing I said was violent. In fact, everything was excitement.
Obviously, Nick is being a good unifier. He's trying to focus on the issues at hand, but I think a lot of us are just exhausted by this. He's trying to ride Nick Shirley's coattails and pretend like she's involved in this when really she's just kind of undermining his credibility and making the waters even muddier for him. Like, it's just so unhelpful. Like, I think we are all just exhausted by the fraud and the lies on the left, the inaction from the right. Like, we're just sitting here being like, can somebody please do something? Can somebody please get off their asses and help American people? Now, thankfully,
again, I'm so happy Nick did this.
It seems like this has started to spur something into gear. The Trump administration officially announced that they have halted all child care payments to Minnesota, and they are now requiring verification before sending any more AFC federal dollars.
Good, because I don't think any state should be giving money for state-run child care centers if every state, you got states with, like, my brother and his wife who pay tons of money each month in child care for a daycare for my niece. If I had the ability, I'd watch her throughout the days, but I don't have every day available, sadly. And they probably wouldn't be looking to just hand me all that money right away, too. It'd be nice, but it wouldn't give me enough to live on for only one kid. I'd have to add more, which at that point, give me the money, I'll run the Somalian daycare.
to a state, which is insane to me that was not a protocol
But yeah,
to begin with.
Americans have to pay for daycare. That shouldn't be a program that's given to immigrants.
We were just sending money right and left with no receipts, no verification, no nothing. That is insane. Now, they have also announced the first congressional hearing on this issue. It will take place on January 7th, I believe. Tim Walz has been invited to testify at the second hearing, which will take place in
Invited.
February.
And I hate that word. They invited Tim Walz to come and testify. Like, no. He should be required to come there and admit some things in front of the Senate overhearing committee there, the Senate Oversight Committee. And yeah, he 100%, if he's not there, he should be arrested. Just like I think Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton should be in jail for when they were supposed to be brought in about Epstein stuff. Like last month or 2 months ago, it was like, it's crazy how Bill Clinton and Hillary were like, oh, yeah, you guys have to come here and speak. No, we're just not going to show up. And nothing happened. I hate this. There are so many individuals who are above the law, and it's not fair.
You can see here in this tweet here, February 10th is when Tim Walz is invited to testify. So who knows what will
it's not
happen,
equal.
if anything will happen from this hearing or anything else. But the point is, Americans are watching. 135
it's rules
million
for thee, but not
watching.
for them.
Millions have seen Nick's video, and even more so
rules
are
for
watching
thee
the
and
fallout,
not
whether
for
they're
me.
seeing that on Fox News or CNN, other posts, other investigations. We are all watching. More and more Americans are waking up to the reality that our hard-earned money, whether it is from income tax or property tax or sales tax, whatever it is, that it is going to fraud, and that our government barely keeps track, that there is no accountability for where our hard-earned money is actually going. Americans are waking up to the reality that while they can barely afford healthcare because it is so insanely expensive,
oh, yeah.
that they are simultaneously helping fund healthcare centers with no patients. They're seeing that they can barely afford homes while a community in Minnesota that refuses to assimilate, that often says that they hate America, is buying mansions off Americans' back and then sending money home back to Somalia to terrorist groups. Americans are watching all of that. So just remember that. When politicians like Tim Walz and Zohran Mamdani and Gavin Newsom promise free childcare and free housing and free healthcare and free transportation, whatever it is, that what they're really promising is massive government programs with no accountability, paid for by hardworking Americans who do everything right, who do not get to reap the benefits of paying into those programs. And once that money is gone, once it has been sent overseas to Al-Shabaab, wherever it is, buying the mansions, the government and those fraudsters, they are not the ones who actually have to pay the price. It is the American families who still won't be able to afford daycare, who won't be able to afford healthcare, who still get worse services than ever before. They are who pay the price. So that's why Americans are pretty freaking fed up.
Yeah. It is absolutely insane. I think the government should have to have a receipt for every single penny that gets sent out of tax dollars. If you know how much I owe you in taxes each year, without me having to do anything, you 100% should provide us a receipt with, I want an itemized bill of where my taxes are going. If 100% of my tax bill went to one thing, all right, fine. What is that one thing? And can let other people share their, thing their tax dollars went to? Whether it went, if all my dollars are going to funding education, great, cool. Are they doing it in a good way, or is it going in a wasteful way where it's education, but it's in this big pool that kind of gets shoved around and, oh, there's extra money, so now it's not just an education, it's education and other little program hiding over there that, wasn't labeled in there. Like, okay, there's leftover money. Guess what happens? Tax refund! That's what should happen every time. If all of a sudden this money is allocated there and all of that's not used, it goes back. That would be a much bigger incentive for people to be smart about government spending if all of a sudden at the end of the year they got a benefit for not spending everything, rather than, oh, you get a smaller budget next year because you didn't spend all your dollars. That's insane. The amount of fraud in this government is absolutely insane, and I think we need somebody to go in. And I will say, they're going to make mistakes doing it, but we need someone to go in with a fucking bulldozer. We're going beyond sledgehammer. We need a bulldozer. We need someone to build us a killdozer. Hey, Whistling Diesel built one. Let's borrow his. We need someone to run through with a killdozer and absolutely just smash a ton of programs. And hey, if we fuck up, let's fix it. but we'll have to fix it after the fact. There will be some hurt, but I think it'll be worth the hurt. It'll be worth the pain to get, being caught in that rain to start again with everything. And yeah. Anyways, this video is long enough. I have been yapping, and as I said, if you pulled up Brett's video in another browser tab, it's over by now. So, you're welcome. Now you got a view for her channel and a view for mine, and everyone's all happy, and I'm not stealing any content. You have a good day. I'll have a good day. I'll see you later. For Trump capturing Maduro, here's what we need to know with war fronts, and I'll catch you later. Goodbye.